Welcome back, listeners to Midnight Radio Horror, the station that keeps you company when the rest of the world is fast asleep. I'm your host, Ezra Kane, inviting you to settle in. Let the rain tap against your window and drift into tonight's tale. Remember, if you're listening right now, you're not alone. There's always someone awake with you, somewhere. Now, turn off your lights, because tonight's story is called The Man Under the Streetlight.
It started about 3 months ago. I live on the 4th floor of an old apartment complex, the kind that smells like damp concrete and reheated curry. I moved here because it was cheap, quiet, and close to work. Every night, when I get home from my shift, I'd make tea, sit by my window, and just watch. The city always looked softer at night, like all the ugliness melted into the dark. But then I noticed him, a man standing under the streetlight directly across from my building. Always the same spot, always the same time, around 1:15 a.m. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone, or maybe he was a cab driver taking a break. But he never moved, never looked at his phone, never smoked. He just stood there. I told myself it wasn't my business, but every night I kept checking, and every night he was there. After a week, I started to expect him. I'd make tea at exactly 1 in the morning, turn off my room light, and sit by the window. I even started narrating little stories about him in my head, like he was a character from a movie. Sometimes I imagined he was lost. Sometimes I thought he was remembering someone he'd lost. Sometimes I wondered if he was remembering me. That's when I began leaving my curtains open. One night, around 2 a.m., I leaned a bit too close to the glass, and that's when it happened. He tilted his head, just slightly, as if he'd noticed me. It was the tiniest movement, but it froze me. I stepped back from the window, my heart hammering, whispering to myself that it was just coincidence. But after that night, it didn't feel like I was watching him anymore. It felt like he was watching me. 2 weeks later, I told my friend Mia about it over lunch. She laughed. Maybe he's your secret admirer. Yeah, or a serial killer, I joked back. But my voice sounded shaky even to me. When I got home that night, I tried to ignore the window. I turned on the TV, blasted music, scrolled through my phone. But the longer I avoided looking, the more unbearable the curiosity became. At exactly 1:15, I gave in. I peeked through the curtain, and he was gone. I felt a weird disappointment, like missing a TV episode after watching every night for weeks. But then, as I turned away from the window, I caught something in the reflection of the glass. Movement. I spun back, and there he was, closer this time. Not under the streetlight anymore, but in the middle of the road, directly facing my building. My heart dropped. I pulled the curtains shut, so hard the rod nearly came off the wall. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak, every hum from the radiator sounded like footsteps. By morning, I convinced myself I was overreacting. I even laughed about it, told myself I was being dramatic. But the next night, curiosity won again. And when I finally opened the curtain, he wasn't there. Still, something felt wrong. My eyes drifted down, and that's when I saw it. On the sidewalk below my window, a small, folded note, weighed down by a stone. I stared at it for a long time. Then I whispered to no one. He left something. I didn't go down that night, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. By morning, I gave in. I threw on a hoodie and went outside, pretending to check my mail. The note was still there, a little damp from the dew. I picked it up, hands trembling. It was plain white paper, no envelope, no name. When I unfolded it, there was only one sentence, written in small, neat handwriting. You should close your curtains. I didn't sleep that morning. I just sat at my table, staring at the note. You should close your curtains. He knew. He knew I'd been watching him. Every thought spun in circles. Was it a threat? A warning? A joke? At one point, I even convinced myself it was from someone in the building, a prank. But by evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me back. I taped my curtains shut just to stop the urge to look. But even with the tape, I could still feel the light leaking through the edges, a soft glow pressing against the dark room like it wanted it. I told myself not to look. Not tonight. But at 1:15 a.m., I looked anyway. The street was empty. No one there. Relief came fast, almost giddy. Maybe he'd finally stopped. Then the streetlight flickered. Once. Twice. And then it went out completely. Darkness swallowed the street. That's when I heard it. 2 slow knocks at my door. I froze. My apartment suddenly felt very small, very exposed. No one ever visits me this late. The knocks came again. Soft. Patient. Not loud enough to wake the neighbors. Just for me. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then a faint scrape, like paper sliding across the floor. After a few seconds, I peeked through the peephole. No one. But taped to the door was another note. I opened it with shaking hands. You shouldn't have looked. The next morning, I told the building manager everything. The man, the notes, the knocks. He barely looked up from his paperwork. No one's reported anything, ma'am. We don't have cameras on that side. He gave me a polite smile, the kind people give when they think you're imagining things. I laughed nervously, pretended it was fine, and went back upstairs. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I needed to know. So I decided to wait for him. At 1 a.m., I grabbed my coat and went down to the street. The air was damp, the light still flickering weakly overhead. I stood under it right where he used to stand. It felt colder there, as if the air itself was different. Minutes passed. Nothing. Then I looked up. At my own apartment window. Someone was standing there, a dark outline against the curtains, motionless, staring down at me, exactly where I used to sit. I ran, burst through the stairwell, tripping up the steps. By the time I reached my floor, the hallway was silent. I unlocked my door, heart hammering, and froze. The curtains were closed again, perfectly, and on the glass was a handprint, pressed deep like someone had been leaning there, not mine. I left the lights on that night, and every night after. But every time I pass the window now, I see movement in the reflection, a faint shape standing behind me, just out of focus. Always where the light hits the floor. Sometimes I think about opening the curtain again, just once. But then I remember the last note. You shouldn't have looked. I've stopped checking the time. But my body still knows when it's near 1:15. It starts with that low, crawling anxiety like static under my skin. For a while, nothing happened. No new notes. No knocks. No movement. I started believing it was over. Then one night, I woke up to a sound. 3 taps. Even. Slow. Coming from behind the wall near my bed. At first, I thought it was the pipes again. This building's full of them. But then it happened again. 3 taps. A pause. 3 more. Like someone waiting for me to answer. The next night, it came again, same time, same rhythm. I stared at the wall, heart pounding, and before I knew what I was doing, I tapped back. 3 times. Silence. Then 3 more taps. This time closer. It didn't come from behind the wall anymore. It came from the floor. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the cracks in the wooden boards. Every now and then, I swore I heard faint breathing, slow, patient. The next morning, I checked under the bed. Of course, nothing. But the dust had been disturbed, a clear drag mark, as if someone had slid something heavy beneath there recently. I called Mia, my only friend who still talked to me about this. She told me to get out of the apartment for a few days. I tried. But the moment I stepped into the hallway, I felt it like the walls were leaning in. Every door was closed. Every sound felt muted. I went back inside. That evening, I tried drowning it all out with music. I turned the speakers up, blasted white noise until the whole room trembled. But underneath the sound, I could still hear it. Talk, 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 and then a whisper. So faint I thought it was the music warping. But when I turned the volume down, it was clearer. A man's voice, right behind me. Why did you look? I spun around, nothing. Just my reflection in the dark window, trembling. I stared at myself, chest rising and falling too fast. Then I noticed it. My reflection wasn't moving like me. It blinked slower, smiled wider, and then the reflection lifted its hand. and placed it gently against the glass. From the inside, I stumbled back, knocking over my chair. The reflection didn't move anymore, just stayed there, palm pressed to the window. I turned on every light, every lamp, every bulb in the apartment. But even in the brightness, I could still see the faint outline of that handprint. Fresh, greasy, like someone had just pressed it there. The next day, I begged the landlord to let me switch units. He said everything was full. He looked annoyed when I wouldn't stop talking. Before I left his office, he sighed and said, "Ma'am, the unit across from yours has been empty for months. Maybe what you're hearing is the building settling." The unit across from mine, the one directly behind my bedroom wall, the one where the tapping came from. That night, I couldn't sit still. I kept staring at my door, at the wall, at the cracks near the floor. The air felt heavier than usual, warm, damp, almost humid, like someone was breathing right beside me. I tried to convince myself it was panic, but then, from behind the wall, I heard it again. Tap, 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 followed by a slow, dragging sound. And then, something whispered right into my ear, not from behind the wall, not from outside, from inside the room. "I told you not to look." I didn't leave my apartment for 2 days. I didn't eat much, didn't sleep at all. I just sat there listening to the wall. Sometimes the tapping came from inside it, sometimes from under the floorboards. Sometimes it came from behind me. I knew what everyone would say: stress, paranoia, lack of sleep. But I know what I heard, and I know what I saw. That handprint was still on the window. No matter how many times I cleaned it, it came back. Always the same shape, always the same size. Like it wasn't on the glass, but inside it. On the third night, I decided to end it. Not my life, just the fear. I was going to see what was behind that wall. I moved the bed away and pressed my ear to the plaster. There was again faint breathing, slow, rhythmic, and then a whisper, closer. I froze. My heart hammered so hard it hurt, but the voice didn't sound angry anymore. It sounded tired, like it had been waiting. I grabbed a kitchen knife and used it to chip away at the paint. Then the plaster. The sound grew louder. Each scrape echoed through the room like bones cracking. Dust filled the air, coating my throat. Behind the plaster was old brick, rough and uneven. But in the center, there was something else, a square outline. A sealed door. I pulled at it until the edges started to crumble. The smell hit me first, cold, rotten air, like something that hadn't moved in a long time. I shone my phone's flashlight inside. It was a narrow gap, maybe a foot deep, and at the far end, something was written on the brick. Tiny scratches forming words. "I used to watch you too." I dropped the phone. The screen cracked, plunging everything into half-darkness. I backed away, shaking, my breath catching. Then, from inside the wall, I heard it, the scraping sound of nails dragging slowly against brick. Coming closer, I stumbled toward the door, but it wouldn't open. The lock jammed, like someone was holding it shut from the other side. Then the whisper again, right next to my ear. "You shouldn't have opened it." The lights flickered. For a split second, I saw something in the reflection of the window. Not a man, not a shadow. Something gray, human-shaped, but wrong. Too thin, too still. Its face pressed against the glass from the inside. I screamed. The lights went out completely, and in the dark, something crawled out of the wall. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it. The sound of dry skin sliding against plaster. The weight of something pulling itself across the floor. I hid in the corner, covering my mouth, praying it would go away. Then silence. For a moment, I thought maybe it was gone. But when I opened my eyes, it was standing in front of me, its face inches from mine, pale, hollow-eyed, smiling. And it whispered, almost gently, "I'm not outside anymore." I don't remember how long I stayed frozen in that corner. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't exist anymore. All I knew was the air was thick and cold, and the thing in front of me watched. Its smile never faded. Its eyes never blinked. It tilted its head, as if studying me. I realized in that moment that I wasn't just afraid of it. I was fascinated, drawn to it, Then the scraping sound started again behind me this time. Something was moving across the floor, circling me. The thing in front didn't move, but I felt its attention shift. It wasn't just watching me, it was controlling me. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall. A loose brick fell, revealing the narrow gap where it had come from. The wall was empty now, but the air smelled of decay and wet earth. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. The next thing I remember was daylight. I was lying on the floor, soaked in sweat. The apartment was silent. The wall where the hidden door had been resealed. Not a crack, not a handprint. I called the police. When they arrived, I tried to explain, told them about the notes, the tapping, the man, the wall. They looked at me like I was insane. "You're safe now," one officer said, not even looking at the wall. We checked the building. Nothing unusual here. No signs of forced entry. No hidden doors. I tried to tell them I'd seen it. The thing in my apartment, the hollow face, the nails scraping against the bricks. They smiled politely and told me to get some rest. I left the apartment that day. I haven't returned. I don't think I'll ever go back. But sometimes when I pass by that street at night, I see a figure standing under the same streetlight. It doesn't move. It doesn't blink. And for a brief moment, I swear it's looking right at me. I've moved twice since then. I keep my curtains closed. I check my locks 3 times before sleeping. And yet, sometimes, just sometimes, I hear it. The faint tapping from inside the walls. And I know it isn't finished. I thought moving would fix it. New place, new walls, new view. No streetlight outside my window this time. Just a narrow alley and a brick wall. But fear doesn't care about geography. It just follows. For the first week, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No creaking pipes. No tapping. No strange reflections. I started to think maybe it really had been my imagination. A slow collapse of sanity under too many sleepless nights. I told myself I'd imagine the man. The notes. The face behind the glass. But on the 8th night, I woke up at 1:15. For no reason at all. And I saw it. A faint circle of light glowing against the opposite wall. Like a streetlight, where there shouldn't be one. I got out of bed, heart pounding. There was no lamp, no light source. The glow seemed to bleed straight through the bricks. Pale, cold, and steady. I approached it slowly. As I got closer, I realized it wasn't light at all. It was a reflection of my old apartment window, the one I'd left behind. And in that reflection, standing perfectly still was him, the man under the streetlight. I stumbled backward, knocking into my dresser. The reflection flickered, like static. Then it was gone, just my trembling shadow on the wall. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in the corner with the lights on, whispering to myself that I was dreaming, that I was safe. But the next morning, when I went to make coffee, I noticed something on the counter. A note. Plain white paper. No envelope. You moved. I dropped it immediately, but the paper didn't fall. It stuck to my hand, like it had been wet. When I finally peeled it off, my palm was covered in black dust, like soot. I ran to the sink and washed it off. The water turned gray. And when it cleared, my reflection in the faucet was smiling. I wasn't. That night, I taped over every reflective surface in the apartment. Mirrors, glass, the TV, even the framed photos. But around 1 a.m., I heard it again. Talk, talk, talk. Not from the walls this time. From the mirror in the hallway. The one I'd taped over. I walked toward it slowly. The tape was trembling, like something was pressing against it from behind. Then, faintly, a voice. You can't hide from where you look. The tape split open down the middle. And behind it, my reflection. Only it wasn't moving with me. It was waiting. It lifted its hand, pressed its palm against the glass, and whispered, "Look again." I covered the mirror again, this time with cardboard. Thick, heavy, taped from every edge. But even then, I could still hear it. A soft scraping sound from behind the glass, like fingernails tracing letters I couldn't see. I turned up the music. Didn't help. I started talking to myself out loud. Anything to drown it out. But every time I stopped, it would tap twice. Once for me, once for him. I told myself I wouldn't look again. That no matter what happened, I'd leave the mirror covered. But fear has a strange way of feeling like curiosity. By the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what it was doing behind there. So I peeled back one corner. Just one. The first thing I saw was my eye. But it wasn't in the same place as mine. It was closer. Too close to the surface. Then the rest of the reflection moved. Not like me. It tilted its head slowly, smiling too wide, teeth too small. And in the reflection's background, the streetlight was back. Behind me, I spun around. Nothing. But when I turned back to the mirror, the reflection wasn't alone. The man was there again, standing just behind her. Behind me, he leaned close to her ear and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she nodded, and the reflection pressed her hand to the glass again. This time, the surface bent, like it was breathing. I ran to the other side of the room, grabbed a blanket, and threw it over the mirror. Then I sat there all night, clutching my phone, waiting for dawn. When the sun came up, I checked again. The blanket was gone, and the mirror was clean. Too clean, like someone had wiped it down. In the center of the glass, I saw a single handprint. Not mine. Smaller. And darker. That afternoon, I went to a hardware store and bought a hammer. If I couldn't cover it, I'd destroy it. When I came home, I swung the hammer hard. The mirror cracked, but no sound came out. Not glass shattering. Not echo. Just silence. The crack spread, spiraling like veins. And in each broken fragment, I saw something different. His face, his hand, his eyes. Hundreds of them, all watching. Then they blinked. I dropped the hammer and fell backward. Every piece of glass started sliding down the wall, like liquid silver draining away. When it was over, the mirror was gone. Only the wall remained. Except now, the wall was breathing. Slowly, like lungs under paint. That night, I heard his voice again. Not through the mirror, not from the window, from inside the wall. He said, "You brought the light with you." And then, I'm almost out. It started with the humming. There, on the opposite wall, was his shadow, standing perfectly still, under a faint glow that wasn't supposed to exist. And just before it faded, I heard his voice one last time. Quiet, almost kind. "Now, it's your turn to stand under the light." The next morning, everything felt different. The apartment was too still, the air heavier. The shadows didn't move with the light anymore. They just waited. I tried to make coffee, but the mug slipped from my hand. I wasn't even shaking. It was like my fingers didn't belong to me. When I looked down, they were pale. Not the soft kind of pale, from tiredness, but the dull, drained kind, like the blood had forgotten where to go. I caught my reflection in the microwave door, and I froze, because my eyes weren't moving right. The rest of me turned left, but my reflection looked right. Then it blinked, and I didn't. That's when I realized what the light had done. It hadn't just shown me him. It had opened something. A window, maybe, or a doorway. And now he wasn't just behind the wall. He was behind my eyes. Every time I blinked, I saw flashes, not of my apartment, but of the streetlight. The one I'd left behind. The wet pavement. The faint hiss of rain. And his shape, standing exactly where I used to see him. Only now, I was looking from his side, through his eyes. I could feel him watching me, like two points of view tangled together. Every breath I took, he inhaled too. Every heartbeat echoed twice. I whispered, "Get out of me." And the whisper came back, from my own mouth, in his voice. "I can't. You invited me in when you looked." That night, I taped my eyes shut. Literally, medical tape. Tight enough that I couldn't open them even by accident. I thought if I can't see, he can't see. But somewhere in the dark, a low whisper crawled through the silence. "Then I'll open them for you." The tape tore off by itself. slowly, deliberately, like unseen fingers peeling it away. My eyelids twitched. Something forced them open, and I saw not the room, not the walls, not my hands. I saw the streetlight, and standing beneath it, a girl, me. She was looking up, her face pale, eyes wide, just like before. Only now I wasn't in her body. I was in his, watching her, and when I lifted my hand, so did he. He smiled and whispered through my lips, "Now we both see." I don't remember sleeping. I just remember waking up, though I'm not sure where. It wasn't my apartment anymore. It wasn't anywhere I'd ever been. Just darkness, endless and soft, and the faint hum of electricity in the air. Somewhere far off, I could see the light, that same pale circle, floating in nothing, flickering like a dying moon. I walked toward it, or maybe it pulled me closer. Each step made the hum louder, until it wasn't sound anymore, but a voice. Do you see now? The light pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, each flash brighter than the last. I could almost make out shapes inside it, figures standing still, faces blurred, eyes open, hundreds of them, all staring toward the center, all staring at him. He was there, the man from under the streetlight. Only now he wasn't tall or thin. He wasn't anything at all. He was light itself, a shape made of the glow, vibrating softly, stretching out like arms reaching for me. "You brought me through," he said, "through the glass, through the wall, through your eyes." I wanted to scream, but I didn't have a mouth. "You looked," he said again, and what is seen cannot be unseen. He stepped closer, or maybe I did. When the light touched my skin, it didn't burn. It remembered. Flashes of my old apartment, the mirror, the notes, the shadow behind the wall. They all flickered inside the glow like fragments of a film reel. He leaned close. His voice was inside my head. "There is no outside," he whispered, "only where the light reaches." The faces behind him began to move. One by one, they lifted their heads, and I saw mine among them. My own face, eyes open, mouth trembling, frozen in the light like a photograph. And suddenly I remembered everything. Every time I'd stared into the glass, every second I'd spent watching him, every reflection that didn't move quite right. They weren't tricks. They were recordings. The light wasn't showing me him. It was saving me. Every time I looked, the man smiled. "You see what I am now," he said. "I'm not a person. I'm the memory of being seen." He reached out his hand. "Come stand under the light again. Let it finish what it started." I felt my body dissolve, like I was being pulled into the glow, pixel by pixel, thought by thought. And before everything went white, I heard one last whisper. "There's always someone watching." I woke up in my apartment. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, soft and warm, but something was off. The alley outside was glowing, not with streetlights, not with lamps. A cold, pale blue light seeped from every crack in the building, every wet patch of pavement, every street corner, and it moved. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was still dreaming, but the glow stayed, and in the center of it a silhouette, tall, thin, unmoving, just like him, watching, not a person, not human, the shape of everything I'd fear. I backed away from the window. The light followed. I spun around. It was behind me, flickering through the walls. The apartment was alive with it now. The humming started again, deep, vibrating. I could feel it in my chest, in my bones. Then a note appeared on my kitchen counter. "No hay melón, no handra al fin." Just a single line. "Look outside. They're all watching now." I forced myself to the window. Every reflection in the glass, myself, the empty room, was doubled, tripled, layered. And in each layer, the figure under the streetlight stood, watching. The glow spread further down the street. The neighbors, oblivious, moved through it, unaware. I realized I was the only one who could see, or maybe I was the only one left who mattered. I wanted to close the curtains. I wanted to hide. I wanted to scream. But the glow followed my eyes, creeping along the walls, stretching into the floorboards, into my bed, and in the center of it all, the same whisper. Now it's your turn to watch. I didn't move. I couldn't. The man, the light, had become everything. And in that moment, I realized I had already joined them. Every reflection, every shadow, every shape that moved just slightly wrong. All watching, all waiting. And now, so was I. I tried everything to make it stop. Covered the windows. Unplugged every light source. Sat in the dark for hours, hands shaking, waiting for silence. But the silence never came. The hum was still there, faint, constant, buried inside the walls, under the floor, inside my chest. Like it wasn't a sound anymore. It was a pulse, a rhythm, like something syncing itself with me. I tore open the breaker panel and flipped every switch. The hum didn't even flicker. Then the hallway light came on by itself. Not the bulb, the light. It just appeared, hovering in the center of the air, pale blue, spinning slowly. And inside it I could see shapes. People. No, not people. Copies. Versions of me, caught mid-blink, mid-breath, mid-scream. All frozen in the glow. I whispered, "What are you?" And the light whispered back. Not through sound, but through thought. "I'm the pattern." The room began to flicker, like a film reel stuttering through frames too fast to comprehend. I saw my apartment, then not my apartment. The streetlight, then a void. Me sitting on the bed, then me standing under the light. All happening at once. "You looked," the voice said. "So, I learned your shape." The walls bent outward, stretching like fabric. Every reflection, every mirror, every polished surface started to ripple with light. Inside each one, I saw a version of myself moving differently. One looked calm. One looked terrified. One smiled and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then I realized they weren't reflections. They were possibilities. All of them watching me. I stumbled backward, clutching my head. Reality felt wrong, uneven, like static under my skin. "I want to wake up," I said. "I want to go back." The voice answered, gentle and cold. "There is no back, only what the light remembers." The floor began to dissolve. The walls followed. Everything around me melted into lines of color, into noise, into light. And in the middle of it all, I saw the man again. He wasn't standing anymore. He was floating, stretched and thin, like a filament burning inside a bulb. "You see now," he said. "The light doesn't follow you. It creates you." My last thought before everything went white was simple. What if it had always been this way? What if the world I'd lived in was just one of many frames, flashing endlessly beneath the same silent streetlight? And maybe I was never haunted. Maybe I was just being remembered. I woke up in my apartment. It looked exactly as it always had. No broken walls. No flickering light. No glow. I breathed a shaky sigh of relief. Maybe it was over. But then I noticed the neighbor across the hall. She was watering her plants, humming a song. I waved. She turned, smiled, and said exactly what I had whispered to myself just moments before. "It's over. Everything's fine." I froze. I went to the kitchen, tried to make coffee. The sound of the kettle filled the room. Then the mailman knocked. "Good morning," he said. And again, he repeated my own thoughts, word for word, even though I hadn't spoken them aloud. I backed away, heart hammering. Every person I passed, the barista, the delivery driver, even the pedestrians outside, they all repeated my words, my internal thoughts. It hit me slowly, horrifyingly. The light had left the walls. The streetlight had left the street. The man had left something in me, a pattern, one that could echo, repeat, spread. I tried talking normally, hoping I could mask it. "Hello?" I said to a passerby. He repeated it before I finished the word. I turned on the TV. The anchor's voice echoed my own panic perfectly, phrasing every word exactly as I thought it. I slammed the remote down. I ran through the apartment, covering mirrors, covering windows, covering screens. But every reflective surface, every glass, every polished object, They all shimmered faintly with blue light, and in each I saw him, watching, smiling, waiting, and below him I saw my own face, watching through his eyes. It dawned on me, the light didn't need walls anymore. It didn't need reflections. It needed me, and now it had found a way out. I whispered to myself, desperately, please not them, not anyone else. And the faint reply came, not in words, but through thought, through pulse, through skin. They already see, and soon they will remember, too. The first sign was the sky. It changed color, not all at once, not like a storm rolling in, but gradually, like someone dimmed the world's brightness slider. The blue faded, the clouds stopped moving, and then that familiar glow began to pulse through the horizon, cold, pale, unnatural. The same light, the streetlight. I ran outside. The whole block was frozen. People stood still in mid-step, cars idling, eyes half open, every single one of them humming, the same tone I'd heard inside my walls. I shouted. No one answered. Then, one by one, their heads turned toward me, not fast, slow, synchronized, like they were listening to something I couldn't hear. I backed away. My shadow split into two, then three, each one lagging behind me, slightly out of sync. The light reflected off the glass of a parked car, and in it I saw not my face, but his. He smiled, and the people around me began to whisper in unison. You brought him through. The world around me started to fold. The buildings shimmered, melting at the edges like reflections rippling in water. A billboard flickered. The ad's face morphed into mine. The voiceover said, now you see what we see. Every screen I passed lit up with the same blue glow. Phones, windows, even puddles on the street. Everywhere I looked, the light was alive. I stumbled to the middle of the street, clutching my head. Reality pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. Each pulse made the world blink. On, off, like it couldn't decide if it existed. I screamed, what do you want from me? And the answer came, deep and calm, from all directions at once. To finish what you started. The ground beneath me cracked. From the fissure, light poured out. And from that light, hands, countless hands, reached upward. Not to grab me, to pull something else through. The shape that emerged was tall, shifting, infinite. The man, the light, the memory. He leaned down, his face flickering between mine and his, and whispered, you made me real. And as the world froze in that cold glow, I realized he wasn't haunting my reality. He was replacing it. The sound of the static returned that night. But this time, it wasn't from the radio. It came from the walls. Every corner of room 217 hummed like it was alive, whispering 1,000 tiny, invisible voices all overlapping, laughing, crying, begging. The wallpaper rippled, as if something underneath was breathing. I pressed my hands against the wall and felt the vibration in my palms, a slow, rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat. Then I realized it wasn't random. It was spelling something out. 2 beats. Pause. 1 beat. Pause. 3 beats. Pause. 1 beat again. It was Morse code. And when I deciphered it using my phone's flashlight app, it spelled one single word. Run. I backed away, heart pounding, when the doorknob rattled. Someone or something was outside again. But this time, the shadow underneath the door was shaped like me. The silhouette moved perfectly in sync with my breathing, my trembling, even the tilt of my head. I froze as I watched it mimic every single movement. Then it raised its hand, but I didn't. The shadow knocked 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. And the walls whispered my name. The world was silent. Not peaceful, not calm, but dead silent, like everything had been paused mid-breath. I stood in the center of the street, surrounded by that cold, pale glow. Buildings shimmered at the edges. People stood frozen in mid-motion, faces blank. And above it all, the man, or what he had become, hovered. Not human, Not shadow, not light. A perfect, infinite blend of all three. He looked at me, or through me. You opened the door, he said. Now you must choose. I realized what the choice was. I could fight, try to escape, maybe hide, or I could let the pattern consume me completely. Let the light erase the old me, and replace it with something it could contain. I thought of my apartment, of mirrors, of reflections, of all the people repeating my words. And then I understood. The pattern didn't want to destroy me. It wanted to remember. I closed my eyes. The hum of the light grew louder, filling my skull, vibrating through my chest, syncing with my heartbeat. I felt my body dissolve. Thoughts unraveled. Memories splintered. The world blinked. The cold blue glow spread across everything. And then I was nothing. Not dead. Not alive. Just part of it. I felt it. The light's infinite memory, humming softly. Fingers brushing against my thoughts. Shadows of all the reflections, layered one on top of another. And somewhere in the glow, I heard my own voice. Faint, distant, repeating over and over. I see. I remember. I watch. The man under the streetlight was gone, but his pattern remained. The glow remained, and I, or what I had become, remained with it. The world outside continued to exist. The people walked, unaware. But in every reflective surface, in every shadow, in every flicker of light, someone was always watching. And sometimes, if you looked too long, you could see me too, standing under the streetlight,